On this episode of the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino, Soonerscoop.com's Carey Murdock joins us to talk some OU football. We discuss Taylor Tatum's commitment, and we give you our winners and losers of the weekend. Please download and subscribe to the podcast, rate it 5 stars, and write us a good review. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search Oklahoma Breakdown on any of those, and you'll find us. All right. Our man Michael Hosty will kick this thing off. It's time for the Oklahoma Breakdown. It's a beautiful Monday, July 24th, and you're listening to the Oklahoma Breakdown with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack, blackjack match, roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options in the month of July, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, simply the best. Now, recording this on Sunday afternoon, and I timed my coffee for this perfectly. We are buzzing, baby. Maybe a little over caffeinated. Let's go, Lehman. Come on, man.
That's good. That's good. You're ramping up the caffeine high. Perfect timing. That's good.
Yes. Now, couple orders of business. If you would like to sponsor, if you'd like to advertise on the podcast during football season, you can email us at theoklahomabreakdown@gmail.com, and we'll get you all the information. And then some programming notes. We've got some vacations coming up. Ted is taking the one vacation he takes a year, seemingly. So we've got Carey Murdock, our buddy, on today. Talk about SEC Media Days, some OU football. Then we've got Andy Staples, right? One of the most well-respected national college football writers. He will be on Wednesday's episode. Neil Brown, the head football coach for West Virginia, is scheduled to join us this week. So that should be on Sunday's episode. And I believe also this week we are going to record an interview with the one and only Danny Stutzman before training camp gets started for the Sooners. So vacation's coming up, but we got a lot going on still, baby. Love it.
Yep. Good stuff. Good cast of characters going to be making their way through the pod here over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be fun. Gearing up for the season, man. We're getting close.
Yeah, getting close. And, man, some exciting news over the weekend for Oklahoma football. And that's where we'll start. The #1 running back in the class of 2024, Taylor Tatum, chooses Oklahoma over USC. Now, before we dive into the skill set, right, what we see on the highlights, Ted, this has to be one of the most satisfying recruiting wins for OU fans in quite some time, right? We don't have to pretend it's not, right? That one felt real good for OU fans.
Yeah, it did. 5-star running back. It's been a while. All right, #1 running back in the class. And as this thing whittled down, there was good news from Oklahoma, felt like for several weeks now. But hey, he's got his final two. It's Oklahoma and USC, right? And that's a head-to-head one that there was a lot on the line, and you didn't want to take the L whenever it came to that recruiting battle, because there's going to be some relentless trolling online, I'm sure. So, yeah, it was big. And, the SEC is a big factor in that. The relationships at Oklahoma, DeMarco Murray is a huge factor in that. All in all, just a really, really good win. And, it feels like it's been a slow recruiting cycle this year. It's just been, I guess the wins and the commitments have been spaced out quite a bit, but things shaping up to look really, really good.
Yeah. And, before we dive into the football side of things for Tatum, got to give Skip Johnson a lot of credit, right? His ability to work with Brent Venables and the football staff and kind of tag team this recruitment, right? That was a huge piece of it. right? Because SEC, playing baseball in the SEC is a big deal, right? So there's no doubt OU's move to the Southeastern Conference is a massive reason, maybe the main reason that Tatum chose the Sooners. But it is, I mean, it's important to acknowledge just how awesome Skip Johnson is. We loved it. We love that guy. But man, you're right. It's a big win for DeMarco Murray. And remember, DeMarco could have gone to USC, right? The offer was on the table, but he chose to stay at the alma mater. And man, it's got to feel really good for him to get that head-to-head win over the Trojans for Tatum. And this guy, and rankings don't mean everything, right? But I was trying to think about it. DeMarco really, he hasn't been at OU that long as a coach. And when I was thinking about it, this has got to be the most talented guy he will have coached.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that is not insignificant. Like that is a big win for DeMarco Murray, and obviously a big win for OU.
Yeah. It's huge. And I think that the running back position group is kind of just a microcosm of the overall roster. Like, there's starting to become more and more depth. You look at a bunch of position groups across the board, and I think Bill Bedenbaugh has said about Tyler Guyton that maybe he's the most talented player he's ever been able to coach. All right, now DeMarco Murray, this is going to be the most talented player that he's coached. You just start to look at that, and for what we've had here recently, we're starting to get some of those guys on the roster. So it's taken some time, but they're getting there. And I've said this a bunch about DeMarco, but I fully believe it. He was really put behind the 8 ball throughout the whole COVID situation whenever he first took the job at OU and wasn't able to get out and use his star power. And the way that he works the room, I'm so impressed with him, how personable he is and how he goes and meets everyone and talks to everyone. Just a really, really good guy that is, I think, starting to find his groove in this college football thing and his role in it. And you can tell by the players that he's bringing in.
Yeah. Tatum, the highest ranked running back prospect that OU's gotten. And I know he still hasn't signed, right? But when it's down to 2 schools and you commit to one of them, usually that's where you're going to end up, especially when you're playing 2 sports, right? So feeling good about Tatum signing once signing day rolls around, but he's the highest ranked running back prospect since Joe Mixon. That is, yeah, it's big time. And you watch the highlights, just looking at him as a player, you clearly see the quickness he's got, the speed, just from the highlights, displays some good patience and looks like he has a nice understanding already of how to use blocks. But the clips I like are when he's lined up in the slot and just running deep routes as a wide receiver and looking very natural catching the football in some of those situations. That makes you wonder. You see a guy that has all of that in his skill set, the wheels start spinning on how Jeff Lebby can use this guy. So that's where he's a 5-star for a reason, right? He's got a lot of physical gifts, but man, if you can do it all, getting handed the ball out of the backfield, but also line up with receiver and run routes that way and catch the football the way that he can catch the football, those guys are dangerous. Those are what you call weapons.
Yeah. And I'm not exactly sure that there's a science to how baseball and football translate across sports, but I got to imagine that being a top baseball player comes with having pretty good ball skills, really good eye-hand coordination, both hitting, playing out in the field. And I think that translates to tracking down the football if you're a running back that's out in the slot that's catching it. I think those skills translate a little bit. So that's where it's going. The days of it's just not completely dead that you have just the gigantic running back that's a between the tackles guy that you just feed over and over. It's more about versatility now at the running back position, being able to do a bunch of different things. And with his with his physique and his physical talents, it looks like that's exactly what he's geared to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the physique. Like he looks the part, right? 5'10-ish, 5'10 and a half, 200-ish pounds, right? And I still think there's a lot of untapped physical potential there. That's one of the things I like about him. He's not a super muscled up, like you look like you've already tapped every ounce of potential out of the guy. Like that's, or at least that's not how he looks to me from the video I've seen and the pictures I've seen. He still looks pretty lean. So you think about what he could end up being physically and what that could, what that could mean for what he is athletically. Guy doesn't look like he's filled out his frame. So clearly the talent is there, but it does make you wonder like what the potential can be after he adds more weight, strength on that frame with Jerry Schmidt. I mean, I would rather have a guy that like that as opposed to, it kind of already looks fully developed, right? That makes me wonder, okay, what can this guy be, even though he's already as talented as he is?
Yeah. And I like his size. There's a bunch of good running backs that are taller, but I think it's probably more consistent with the running back that's in his size range. The taller you get, the harder it is to get your pads low. It's just you can carry more weight. You can be a little bit bigger, but I think at this size you can have more punch. You can run with lower pads. I think it makes it easier to change direction. Now there's some drawbacks, but it's not like he's not small. I think the size is about perfect. I mean, probably going to end up, now this guy end up being an absolute freak and jacked as hell, but kind of reminds me of like a Rodney Anderson type of build whenever he first showed up. So I don't know. I think some good things could happen with what he's got talent wise.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about Brent Venables and the staff recruiting to the move to the SEC. And this was really was one of the first ones, not because you land the number one running back in the country, right? It was really one of the first times where I went, oh, damn, this guy's not going to play in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Class of 2024. He is going to, he's going to be an SEC football player. And
Yep.
it got me thinking about, what it means to have top talent at the skill positions in the SEC, especially at the running back position. Now, going into that league, we've talked about it a lot. Like you got to win at the line of scrimmage. There's just there is nothing that is going to coordinate to success in that conference more than good of line of scrimmage play, right? But having top talent at the running back position, with how important it's going to be to run the football in that league. I mean, that's huge. And when I looked, I was like, dang, number one running back in the country. And he's never going to know what it's like when it comes to life in the Big 12. He's an SEC guy. It's still taking me some time to process all of this.
Yeah, it is strange. And, that's one of the things that Venables said, whenever that schedule came out, he was talking about, you think we're not going to be plastering this up on the Jumbotron this weekend when they've got all those recruits in? Absolutely. And we've known that there's going to be a boost coming in recruiting whenever it comes to the SEC stuff. And you heard Tatum say exactly that. And it matters. And I think it's going to continue to help us. You're right, though. Line of scrimmage is, you could do some things with great skill position players. You can. But the consistency is not going to be what it is if you don't replicate this type of success on the line of scrimmage whenever it comes to recruiting. And kind of feels like they are. Kind of feels like they're about to like bust this thing open on the defensive line. And this, like, if they end up getting not even all of the guys that they're, according to the experts, leading on right now, if they just get a majority of them, could be the greatest defensive line haul in recruiting that Oklahoma's had in as long as anyone can remember.
Yeah, ever.
ever.
If you're looking at recruiting
Other than the
rankings,
year
right?
the Selman brothers showed up.
Yeah. Now, what Williams-Nwaneri, David Stone, Nigel Smith, all still yet to make their decisions, but it feels like there's so much excitement around the program, and that's another thing about the Taylor Tatum commitment. Other recruits notice when the number one player at a position in the class is going a certain place. Right? It's something that every other big time recruit notices. Right? They go, okay. And it's not just the 2024 class, it's 2025, 2026. Right? And he's there in the state of Texas at Longview. Like that gets people talking. Like, oh, okay. OU's in the mix like that now. And that's huge. So
They land the number one overall player in Nwaneri. I think people are already noticing out there, like coaching staffs are noticing, but you land the number one overall player and get the ink to the paper, I think everyone's going to recognize, and that will be a really good sign moving forward for Oklahoma.
No doubt. Last thing on Tatum, I just think when you think about how the physicality is going to ramp up in the SEC, and I'm not saying the Big 12 isn't a physical conference. It is, but the size, the caliber of athletes in the SEC, right? All I got to do is look at the NFL draft numbers. It's just a league that has bigger humans than the Big 12. Right? It's just the truth. So having elite talent at the running back position, right? Not only like holding up to the pounding that you're going to take from defenses in that league, but man, sometimes you're going to lose the battle at the line of scrimmage, and you need a back there that can do something special when there's nothing there. But that happens in football. That happens, guys that go and play in the NFL, you understand that. You understand that more when you get to that level, right? Where you're not just knocking the hell out of everyone and creating 2 or 3 yards of push at the line of scrimmage. That's not going to happen every time in the SEC. So you need some really talented backs to go make some things happen when there's not a lot there. And I feel like they think Tatum is that dude. So I know there's a lot to unpack with what we just went through, but man, bottom line is it's exciting. It's exciting news.
And last thing I'll say about it is we heard Venables talking about competitive depth. I think the running back room is really getting there. And that's not even counting him, like just with what they've got right now. And that's another thing in the SEC. It is in the Big 12, it will matter, but the depth, whenever you lose a good player at a position, when you've got a roster to where it doesn't kill you, and I mean, you're always going to notice whenever a superstar is out, but whenever the next guy that steps in is a former 5-star recruit, young guy, like we're getting to a point at some positions to where the backups are highly recruited players that, have a chance to go in and maybe bloom themselves as stars. And that's what you got to have.
Yeah. And then you hope that everything that this staff preaches when you're talking about the development piece, caring for these guys off the field, all the programmatic stuff they put in place, you hope that helps you retain a lot of these guys that they have now brought in that are as talented as they are. So it all works together. It all works together. But I know this, landing the number one running back in the country is a good thing. It's a good thing.
Huge thing.
All right, let's get to call your shot. We asked you guys the most important thing that happened this weekend for OU football. There are a lot of Taylor Tatum responses, but I love this one. And it comes from Bailey Hadda, Hada, Hadda. I'm going with Hadda. And she said, the Coach V 212 Ladies Clinic. What an amazing culture Coach Venables is creating. Ted, I know this is an event you absolutely love. The 212 Foundation there for Coach Venables. Ladies Clinic was there in Norman this week. It looked like a blast.
Yeah. my wife was there. She loved it. She said it was a good time. And Soul Mission, man, they're selling the moms on the Soul Mission, and that's a good thing. I think everyone like showing a little bit behind the scenes what these players go through, and the development and coaching and teaching that they're getting behind the scenes, and the nutrition and the the meetings and the study, just being able to see behind the scenes, I think is great to expose some more people to that. And you get the moms on your side, you've got something good rolling.
You're smart. Women are powerful, man. You want them on your side.
That's right.
There's no doubt about. Now that continues to be something that Venables is huge on, right? Guy's got a lot of energy, man. Trying to build an SEC football team, now trying to get ready for this season, clearly. But, being able to, it seems like he really pours a lot of energy into the foundation stuff.
Yep. No, you can tell that it's not just something that they throw together. This is a clinic with, they had a bunch of the players there, a bunch of the coaches were there, coaches' wives, a bunch of the behind the scenes people there. And the fact that they put that much into a women's clinic, it should give you a good indication of how much they put into the rest of the stuff that's going on there. Everything's intentional. And again, they're just continue to try to build the right relationships, both in the facility and outside as well. It's good stuff.
Yeah. This other response comes from Sooner Girl 05, who says, General Booty making number 1 in the CFB all-name team, which is one of my favorite things. This is the one from 24/7 Sports. We've got General Booty as the quarterback. We've got, this is an awesome one, Florida International tight end, Rowdy Beers.
Wow. Yeah, that is good.
Ooh, the UCF's kicker, Colton Boomer.
Boomer for a kicker. I like that.
That's a fantastic kicker name. Chief Borders, linebacker for Nebraska. Memorable Factor, linebacker for Duke. Is that real? It wouldn't be on the list if it wasn't real, right?
Got to be a memorable factor if you want to accomplish anything. That's funny.
Louisville defensive back, Storm Duck.
Huh. Storm's a good one.
That's good. Wait,
Storm
Duck. Some of these, they're hard to believe. We've got a defensive back from UCA, Dude Person. What? Go check out the full list. This is the CFB all-name team there that 24/7 Sports has put out. Pretty good stuff. All right, let's talk to our Birdie. That's not a Buddy.
There we
Buddy.
go.
I think I combined Carey and Buddy to Birdie. I think that's what just happened there.
That's all right.
All right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk to our buddy, Carey Murdock. But first, Love's Travel Stops is now offering a nationwide 10-cent per gallon discount on gas and auto diesel. Just download the Love's Connect app and scan your barcode at the prompt on screen and watch that price drop 10 cents per gallon. Across the country, the Love's Connect app unlocks exclusive deals and can help any traveler plan their route or meal on the highway. So before you hit the road, be sure to download the Love's Connect app to save 10 cents per gallon and experience the country's best highway hospitality at Love's Travel Stops. Love's also has you covered if you forget your phone charger or headphones with their expanded mobile to-go zone. And of course, don't forget to grab yourself some of that delicious Java Amore.
Opolis Clothing is the exclusive home for all of our Oklahoma Breakdown merchandise. It is the best place to get your OU and OKC Thunder gear as well. If you want to live your life in buttery soft comfort, go to opolisclothing.com. That's OPOLIS clothing.com and use promo code TED, TED, for 10% off your entire order. That's opolisclothing.com. Use promo code TED for 10% off. Buttery soft and 10% off.
And hey, you hungry out there? Well, then head to the garage for hand smashed patties, butter toasted buns, and ice cold beer. The food is fantastic, and it is the perfect spot to watch any big game. Visit eatatthegarage.com to find a location near you and order online from the garage in your neighborhood. All right, here's the man, Carey Murdock. It is our pleasure to be joined by one of the morning animals. He is also he's the big guy over there at Soonerscoop.com. Carey Murdock is in the house. What's going on, buddy?
It's good to be back. I promised Teddy less bidet talk on this appearance. As if I remember last time, that was the talk of the town.
Yeah,
Well,
no, let's get a bidet update. Let's start there.
It
How
was
we
difficult
still going
being
strong?
it was difficult being in Nashville for 4 days without the bidet. I'm not going to lie. I missed it.
I don't feel like the SEC's a bidet conference for whatever reason.
I don't know about that, Teddy. I mean,
Really?
they're looking at everything. I mean, they're kind of hoity-toity. I will say this, like, and I know you probably want to ask questions. I'm just going into it. I came away from that thing thinking like, okay, like this is set up as almost a league above a different sport almost. Like it's not the NFL, but it seems to be run a little bit more like the NFL than anything I've ever experienced.
Just from all the stuff that goes into it, all the resources, like more of a commercialized affair.
I mean, the thing that really is an advantage, which I didn't realize going in, is the SEC has one broadcast partner, one rights partner, ESPN, and that makes such a difference because ESPN, it's obvious they put all their weight behind the SEC. Like it was, you're there for 4 days. It's basically a live television program with all these different programming shows on. Whether it's Dari leading things at the desk or Paul Feinbaum having his show, but just all these people coming in and out, and it was just fascinating to me because I was like, wow, ESPN has really kind of corporatized a conference here by making it a professional, basically entity all of its own.
So I know you guys were able to ask a lot of questions. And what was the overall feel you got from coaches and players you were able to talk to about OU coming into the conference next season? Now, it's still a year off, but I saw you guys were able to ask quite a few people about it.
Yeah, and I almost got to feeling where it was orchestrated to where they told all the coaches coming in, like, make sure that you throw out the red carpet, like make sure that you don't say anything disparaging about this league in comparison to what they've been playing in. Make sure you say that these two teams make us better, because that was the overall sentiment from everyone that you talked to. There was no, well, I don't know how it's going to work out. Texas hadn't exactly been doing well in the Big 12, and I don't know if they're going to be able to compete here. It was, these are two premier programs. They come into our league and they make us better. And there was even a moment with Shane Beamer, like, man, Shane Beamer loves Oklahoma. Like he said, he was talking about coming to play in Norman, and he basically said, there's nothing like it. And then he caught himself and he was like, oh shit, I'm the coach of South Carolina. Like, I can't be saying stuff like that. And he's like, I'm misspoken. It was funny. Some people clickbaited it, but it was what it was. But you could tell Shane Beamer still has a lot of affection for his time at Oklahoma.
Yeah, so it was kind of a weird dynamic, gearing up for this year, and then, the Oklahoma and Texas media there covering really what's going to be next year. But it had to be done, right? You have to kind of get the reaction to all of those things. Like, what was the overall presence of Oklahoma and Texas media? Was there a lot of people down there?
We had 3 people there. I think we were the only website. And then the Oklahoman was there they had a stringer in Tyler, who used to work here, now lives in Nashville. Tyler Palmatier, and then Eric Bailey was there from the Tulsa World, and Eli Letterman was there. They kind of switched off coverage there. So, I think News 9 was there. I think they were the only in the OU Daily crew with Nate Fakin were out there as well. So, I mean, it was more than I think Texas sent, Texas media beat people sent. So, I mean, it was a pretty constant. I mean, we were talking to Greg Sankey, we were interviewing him and Andy Staples and Dari Noka and Ryan McGee. And so, I mean, there was a big national presence there, and I think, it was, for us, it was just kind of we had nothing better to do. It's a little bit of a dress rehearsal. We'll figure out what this is all about, how it differs from Big 12. And you always learn a few new things for planning purposes for next year. But I felt like Oklahoma was pretty well represented.
Now,
even though they weren't there.
Did you get the sense that like people feel differently about OU coming into the conference than they do about Texas? It seems like there appears to be, I don't want to say more respect for Oklahoma, but that's just kind of how it feels to me now. I'm being exposed to way more OU content than Texas content, but did you get that sense at all?
Well, kind of, and they had the video, and they included Texas and OU in their like introduction video, and they showed Vince Young scoring a touchdown in the national championship game against USC. But outside of that, it was like they almost went out of their way to make it sure that Texas was included. When I think most people, when they think about tough teams, they think about the Heisman trophies that Oklahoma has won recently. They think about the fact that they've been in the college football playoffs. They know that although no one expects Oklahoma, I don't think, to come in and dominate on the same level at Georgia and Alabama. I think they really feel like Oklahoma is a team that's going to be a tough team to play each and every week. Versus, where Texas, I think people still don't know. I mean, I think they're pretty smart. I mean, they know that not all the best players are going to Texas, that they've been going to Texas A&M, and Texas A&M has been stockpiling talent, and yet they're still not able to break through in the SEC.
You hear anything from anyone? I know a lot of it was kind of a grand scale type of thing, just about what do you think of OU coming in and like that whole situation. But was there anything, any little nuggets you took away from anyone in particular that was maybe a different response than you expected?
I mean, Paul Feinbaum, he basically took a shot at Iowa State for no good reason. I mean, he's being Paul Feinbaum. He's a caricature. I mean, he's pandering to the SEC folks. That's what he does. He needs those callers to call in and, fight with each other. He needs the craziness. And I mean, he definitely, basically said he's hearing things that it's not going so well for Brent Venables. And he went 6-7 last year, Paul. You don't need to talk. You don't need to hear that. I mean, you can look at the games last year. I mean, my God, like I'm hearing things, but that's that's your Colin Cowherd, Paul Feinbaum, troll job of the day.
One of the things that a lot of OU fans loved hearing coming out of SEC Media Days was what Josh Heupel had to say about his relationship with Oklahoma and it not being complicated. What'd you think of what Hype had to say? Because, I mean, you buying it? Because there's definitely still something there, Well,
I mean, in a sense, there's truth to that, in that, the fans here that rooted for him, the people, that he, coached with and that are still in the coaching ranks, clearly there's issues there with he and Bob, and probably Joe C as well. I mean, I know there's issues with Bob. I mean, it's one of those things, like, I want to know what I can do, because like, how can I help put these two back together? Because Josh is the first recruit I ever spoke to, like early on in my career. He's the first kid I ever called and said, and I think he was already on campus at the time, but we were just doing, like, I was working for Sooners Illustrated back then. And so we were doing our, yearly recruiting wrap up, and we had to get interviews with all the recruits. And they're like, call this guy. And I don't think anybody thought like Josh Heupel was going to be the star, or, that he was going to come in here and change Oklahoma football. So they like put the young kid on it. Like, call this Heupel kid from South Dakota or wherever the hell he's from. But like, and Josh, I mean, you guys know Josh, Teddy, I mean, he's a pretty introverted guy, just, naturally. I think I remember talking to Josh, like his dream was to one day replace Bob Stoops as the head coach at Oklahoma. And, for things to go down the way they did and to be let go and to have someone else come in that had a lot more success and was able to kind of, run things as his own, just be left alone and run his offense. I think, there'll always be some bitterness from Josh about how that ended. At the same time, I think Bob says, you know what? It was a tough decision. He's doing well. He's also got to realize our offense got a lot better when we switched to Lincoln Riley too. So, I mean, they both are coming from it at different, points. And it was a difficult thing that happened to both of them, but they both moved on and Josh is having great success. So, I mean, I hope that if there is some bitterness there, that it can kind of fade and these two can, be cordial with each other again.
Well,
I think Bob is at that point where he's willing to make whatever concessions he can make with Josh, so that they can get along and maybe, rebuild that, relationship. I think Josh has to kind of get over, not saying get over it, Josh, but like whatever hurt he has, he that needs to fade a little bit, I think, before that can happen.
And I think, just personally, I think that will happen whenever he comes and coaches on the other sideline. And because I imagine they're going to do something. I don't know what exactly it would be, have some type of tribute. The ovation he's going to get from the fans will be amazing. He'll have all kinds of former teammates will be in town. I mean, it's going to be an ordeal. And I think that's going to replace his last memory, right? His last memories are, the whole, the getting fired and like you never want to go back into that situation, whether you're embarrassed of it or however you feel about it. But whenever you go there and realize that it's over, no one thinks about that anymore and you're celebrated. I think that's the way that you start that, movement to get those guys back together. At least that's, I hope. Yeah.
Well, and it's, it's a different building now than the one that he walked out of for the last time. I mean, things have changed so much on campus. By the time he gets here, you might have, a football complex being built in the background. So maybe it will be an indicator to him, like, a lot of time has, it'll be 10 years. I mean, since he was let go.
Okay.
I will say this, though, it does make for, and I know that some people are worried about this because Roy's going into the Hall of Fame. And, I know Bob wants Josh to be a part of that. So, how does that happen? Like, does Josh stay away from Roy's induction because he's uncomfortable being around Bob? And
they were out there together in Vegas.
Well, that was, I hesitate saying this because I have had discussions with Bob about, some of this stuff. He doesn't want me, he didn't want to go on the record or anything, but I know he appreciated very much that Josh came up to him in Vegas, tapped him on the shoulder and said, congratulations. And then he walked off. I mean, he didn't stick around from what, Bob told me, but that was a really big thing, I think, for Bob to kind of be like, let's try and fix this if we can.
Yeah. I think we can all agree it's time, right?
Yeah.
It's time. Yeah. And just, it'd be best for everyone involved, right?
I mean, it's just weird because it like, just personally, it hurts. Like, just being around both of those for my entire career, watching Josh's coaching tenure, like, it hurts to know that that's a strained relationship still.
Yeah, no doubt. All right. Now, the lifeblood of Sooner Scoop is recruiting. I mean, that's how it's been for a long time. I have to imagine the board
has been good lately, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to imagine the board's lit up after the Taylor Tatum commitment. Just, how exciting and how big is that, right? A 5-star running back. I mean, it's been a while, man.
I mean, it shows you that DeMarco's doing a great job. And, it's so funny too, because he was in limbo, when Lincoln left. Like, was he going to go to USC with Lincoln? Did he have a job here if he stayed? He wanted to be here. I think he and Cale, they were the ones that stepped up and really spearheaded the recruiting when nobody was here, before they hired Brent. So it is a moment I think you should take a moment to really recognize DeMarco Murray and the job that he's done. Not just as a recruiter, but a coach and a developer, because right now that stable looks really stocked and there's more coming than just what's on the roster right now, including Tatum.
Well, I think it's interesting, and this is just recruiting whenever you look at it across the board. Like, that one came down to the final two, Oklahoma and USC. The Jaden Jackson kid is, Florida and Texas, and I don't know, was Ohio State in there, I think.
Yeah.
It feels like almost every battle now we're up against the right people.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't very long ago that we were not winning very many recruiting competitions against those schools at, we would at maybe some skill spots like wide receiver and quarterback, but really nowhere else were we winning those recruiting battles.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, you mentioned the Jaden kid, like he's a 3-star, but you look at his offer list, and whenever I see offer lists like that, I'm like, I don't care what star he has.
Tells you a little bit more than the rating. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's the thing about the SEC and that term is Oklahoma SEC ready? It's in the trenches where to me on the field, when it comes to the X's and O's, where you're SEC ready based on how good you are on both sides of the line, how deep you are, how talented you are on the defensive line. And so, it's Todd Bates' time. It's his time. And, there's the big names that are still out there, David Stone and the Nigel kid and they already lost out on the other kid. But I mean, those are two really big names, Nigel Smith and David Stone, that make this recruiting class go from really good to great. And that also gets you SEC ready if you can sign two guys like that.
What are you guys hearing? And I know that, Josh McCuistion is the one that is really on top of the recruiting stuff and is talking to a lot of the prospects, but what are you guys hearing from these recruits about Venables and the staff as recruiters? Like, are you guys hearing a bunch of positive feedback about the way that they're going about it?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, they're doing so well. I think when you see it, what Brent brings and what his staff brings and what Todd Bates brings is, I've been told this for years. It's always about relationships in recruiting. And these are guys that are really good at building relationships, not just with the player, but with the family, with the coaches, with the trainers. There's no, stone they'll leave unturned in order to build a better relationship with a recruit. And, I know Brent knew that coming in, but you bring in Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis, this guy that's learning that. On the defensive side of the ball, the reason they can go 6-7 and be attracting all these players is because they believe. They believe in these guys, and they have the personalities to build those relationships so that they, build that trust that, we're going to turn this thing around and you're going to be a part of it. And, it's just like with Tatum. Then you add in the SEC, and he mentioned that when he announced his commitment that playing in the SEC, playing both baseball and football is, something that was a real, kind of decision turner for him.
How do you compare like the overall recruiting with the last regime? And like, how do you think with the trajectory it's on? And that probably you have to get into think of what this season may hold record wise, but like, how does it compare to where it was before? And where do you think this thing can end up if like the football goes according to plan?
Yeah. Okay. Comparing it to kind of the last regime, obviously, they did a lot of good things and signed, if Lincoln had stayed here, he would have continued to recruit really well. I see the Perrion Winfrey thing that happened and the Jordan Addison speeding thing that happened over the weekend or this last week. And it makes me think okay, well, they were really good at getting these players in, but you look at the 3 5-star receivers that are no longer here, and Trajan Bridges and Theo Weiss and Jaden Hazelwood. That was the thing about that former staff, is they could get some of those guys, but they didn't either develop them or they lost, they lost them to the portal or transfer or whatever. They never could really keep those guys happy. Or you kind of, and that forced them to kind of take chances. We all heard, stuff that was going on with Perrion when he was playing here. I don't know if Perrion ever would have survived under Brent Venables. He might've gotten kicked off the team for some of the stuff that went on. Then he gets to the NFL, and it's no one was surprised when they found out he was released because of off the field behavior. So I think there's an attention to detail with this staff that wasn't there with the last staff. I think it's that you see more evaluation. Now we'll find out if that works, for Brent, but like the preferred walk-on stuff it comes at much greater frequency with this staff than the last staff.
Is there 40 walk-ons now?
Something like that. Yeah. I mean,
they said there's over 120 players, right?
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, the numbers trying to figure them out is insane. And, it's like, kids they're figuring out like, I'm going to enter the portal. And then they have to be told like, well, there's no portal right now. You can't just do whatever you want anymore. So I don't know how all this works out. Like it's crazy, but I mean, they are turning over every freaking rock that they can to just try and find a guy. I mean, that they think could be something. And, it's like they can kind of let those guys go if they don't turn out to be. It's kind of a no risk, situation when you offer that many preferred walk-ons, except I'm pretty sure you have to have a roster of 105 when the season starts.
They'll figure it out. They'll figure it out when it's
still a rule. I mean, I don't know. There's not a lot of rules anymore, but I think that's still one.
Yeah. Well, I've lost track of the rules, so I'm not concerned about it. Now, when you look at what last season was, what they brought in the offseason, what are your expectations for OU this season? Like as we sit right now with the way that the roster looks, knowing that it was 6-7 a year ago, like how are you feeling about OU football right now?
Is it wrong? Because everybody's caught up in number of wins. And I think if the things go right that you want to see, 9 or 10 wins should be no problem. My main thing that I'm looking for is, I want to see if this defense can show some flashes of dominance. I want to see if those linebackers get it figured out. And I'm even including Danny Stutzman in there. And I know, our people are always like, Teddy said this about the linebackers. So I'm talking to the expert here. Whether, what Jaron Kanik does, where he is, what McCullough does, I just want to see that front seven look like something that we haven't seen since, the 2010s. I mean, it's like, I just want to see a defense start to feel like it's an Oklahoma defense, an early Bob Stoops Oklahoma defense again. And then offensively, you just want to see them work out that stuff with the time management and the tempo and all that stuff. Like, I think if all that gets worked out and you're playing defense, I feel pretty good that this team can easily win 9 games and should win 10 games.
Yep. I think one of the most interesting things about the upcoming season is how different it's going to be for the offense, knowing that they are in a much better position at backup quarterback than they were a year ago.
Yeah.
And what does that mean for the offense? And what do you think? What have you heard? What do you expect the role that Jackson Arnold has in the offense? I mean, not forget injury or anything like that. Just as they come out of the gate, is he going to be a piece of what they do?
That to me, I was thinking about that driving back from Nashville. Like Dylan Gabriel's last year, is it almost like one of those things like they're recruiting promises until you get on campus and then everything changes? Like, do you find a way to get Jackson Arnold some series here and there during the season, even every game? Like, I'm not talking like a belldozer, type deal on the goal line, but like, just give him a series.
Almost like they did last year with the twos.
Yeah.
But Dylan stayed out there, right?
Well, they did that a lot with the, I mean, they would do that. I don't know. I was so surprised last year that they did not sub out receivers as often as they did, because they went with Farouk and Mims and Drake most of the time. And nobody else really played that much. So I just don't feel like Levy is a guy that really plays the development game in the middle of the season. Or maybe that was, and maybe that you could say that's, on Washington last year, being a young coach, not wanting people out there that are going to mess up. I don't know, but that's all we have to go. And, running back, it was like, you really didn't saw Chuck until the bowl game. And then you saw him and you're like, wow, why didn't we see more of that? But Eric Gray had a good year. So to me, that's a huge question. Like, I think it would going into the SEC, I would like, as a, just someone that puts on a GM hat or whatever, like to play armchair GM, I would like to see Jackson Arnold get some series in games in the first half, in the second, maybe just do one series a half, but they've got to run a better offense than they ran last year. So it's going to do no good if he goes out there and three and outs at every time either.
Yeah. We'll see the number of young guys that get on the field. I do think that's going to be an interesting piece of this whole thing this season. Okay. You guys made a very significant decision at Sooner Scoop. You left Rivals. You went to On3. I think this could lead to an interesting discussion about how college football is being covered from a media standpoint, but we can take this as deep as you want it to go. But what all went into that decision, and how difficult was that decision for you guys?
I mean, it was long. I mean, Gabe, I mean, you kind of, I don't know. I think maybe I even kind of kept a lot of stuff from you while that was going on, more than usual. But, it was about a 6-month process where we talked to everybody. 24/7 came after us. On3 came after us. Rivals knew that we were talking to people, and they we gave them every opportunity, to do the things that we wanted to do. But look, Shannon Terry is a guy. He's as big a visionary as this industry's had. He started Rivals. He started 24/7. Now he's doing On3. And he is, really plugged into the NIL space. And, a big part of On3 is working with, players on NIL and being leaders in that industry. But, I think it was the best way to say it is just, we had our time at Rivals. I have no hard feelings, nothing bad to say. I think they would say the same thing. It's kind of one of those things. I'm never going to be mad at people that paid me a bunch of money, regardless if I'm still there or not. So I don't know how you feel about NFL teams, guys, but like, I can't really hate on someone that helped me, make a living for 20 years or, 18 years, whatever it was. And I think there are a lot of really good people at Rivals that are, do a lot of really good work. I just think, On3 had the best vision moving forward. We didn't just want to be a content farm where we're just cranking out contents to get clicks. We care about the subscription business. That's why we hired George Stoya, one of the best young writers in the country. He wanted to get back to college football, and I knew moving to On3 would allow us to bring him on board with, extra resources. And just kind of, how I view media, whereas Rivals was strictly a subscription business, and we could go out and do things on our own, and we did. I mean, we had, we started building these offices on Campus Corner before we ever left Rivals. But I just believe that media is headed in a direction, and Andy Staples, talked to him a little bit this week. He feels kind of the same way. You see, like, The Athletic just kind of giving up on beat writers and letting them go or moving them elsewhere. You see all these major national outlets kind of treating college football as a secondary sport, because it's all just about media rights and not so much about coverage. And there's so many fans out there and so much passion for college football. It's just like you guys starting the podcast. I mean, this people, they consume content in so many different ways now. And it's not just, newspapers or radio or, a 5-minute newscast at the end of the night on, NBC or ABC. I mean, they're on YouTube, they're on podcasting platforms, they're on Twitch, they're consuming content in all these different ways. And I thought On3 was the best way for us to continue kind of building this out to where we're not just a subscription-based website. We're not just a YouTube channel. We're not just a podcast. And we're going to keep exploring things. So that was, I felt like On3 was the best place for us to be able to kind of do that. And they understood. Nobody really understands where the media is going with all this. It's just like ESPN right now. I mean, they're trying to figure out their plus stuff versus, what kind of anchors they need or who should they be employing. I mean, they've had massive layoffs. Like everyone's trying to figure out all these different content spaces and where to be. And locally, I think if you're not like that, you're dying, because you can't just be a radio show. You can't just be a newspaper anymore.
How big's the move to the SEC been for you guys? And is that going to fuel the growth more and more as we really get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be bigger once OU is not 6-7. I mean, I think that's been
what I've noticed from SEC teams. Unlike the Big 12, the Big 12, OU fans consume OU content. Mm-hmm. Kansas State fans consume Kansas State content. It is not like that in the SEC. If you play an SEC school, like the weeks and even months leading up to it, you can see them digitally consuming your content. So I feel like there's going to be some growth there from that.
Yeah, I mean, there is. And I think, the one thing about the move, I think it's like we had some people like, why are you guys at SEC Media Days? Like, why don't you just cover, other stuff? And it's like, this is what we're covering. I mean, it's like a big deal. It's going to be a big deal a year from now. It's just, I think as it gets closer, it gets to become a bigger deal. But you know how it is. I mean, this has kind of become the new realignment, is talking about, OU's move to the SEC and what's going to happen to the Pac-12. And, and I certainly think that, the Big 12's in good hands with Brett Yormark. And I think the league will be fine. But, OU did what they had to do. Texas did what they had to do. And after being at SEC Media Days, I totally get it. Like, it's a monster. The SEC is a monster in the way that the Big 12 was never going to be. And I mean, they're adding the 2 tentpole, teams from the Big 12. And it's not an afterthought, but it's an addition. It's like they already have 2 teams that are performing at a higher level than Oklahoma and Texas.
Yep. Well, I hope you had a fun time in Nashville. Thanks for taking the time, buddy. Love you.
I'm sorry you weren't there. You should have been there.
Listen, the 2-year-old and 3-month-old did. Hey, honey, can I go to Nashville for a couple days? How do you think that would have gone for me, Carey?
I could tell Jared had to get guy night passes because the family was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, it is what it is. Hey, next year, Dallas, that's easy, baby.
It'll be awesome.
I'm lucky. I love the Omni. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like the Big 12. I hated how they separated like the media hotel from the event, because it's just like that. The media hotel was where they had SEC Media Days in Nashville. It was the Grand Hyatt. And it just makes it so much more pleasurable. Like, you're in your room, you come down, you do everything. You go back to your room. It makes it a bigger deal going out on the town, at night. So I'm definitely looking forward to, SEC Media Days in Dallas versus Big 12, where, sitting there at the cavernous Jerry world.
Yeah. You and me both, brother. Thanks for the time, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right, guys.
The SEC move is going to be sweet.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the Dallas Media Day is going to be awesome. It's going to be a frenzy down there. It's really cool. And you say what you want. Maybe it's annoying to admit it, but everything is going to be bigger and better.
It absolutely is. All you got to do is look at what Carey and them are doing at Sooner Scoop.
Yeah.
Like that thing is rapidly expanding. And it's impressive. So appreciate him joining us. All right, let's finish up with our winners and losers of the weekend. But first,
Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School represents a tradition of educational excellence in Oklahoma City. Grounded in a faith-based education, students prepare to meet their potential with an individualized academic path that strives for success. Bishop McGuinness offers a college prep curriculum that includes 22 AP courses, participation in OSSAA athletics, where they've won over 100 state championships, and numerous clubs and organizations for students to join and grow. If you want to provide the best possible educational and spiritual development for your children, contact Bishop McGuinness Catholic High School or visit bmchs.org. Financial aid is available.
And attention business owners, you need Insurica in your life. Insurica is one of the country's largest insurance brokers with 30 offices throughout Oklahoma, Texas, and the Southwest. Insurica compares coverage offerings and pricing in order to design a cost-effective, comprehensive program to meet your business's specific needs. Purchasing insurance is only one way to protect your business. Insurica's goal is to help you avoid a loss in the first place. If your business partners with Insurica, you'll save huge amounts of money and control your total cost of risk. I'm an Insurica client, and you should be too. If your business wants to be best in class, connect with Insurica at insurica.com. That's INSURICA.com. As always, Ted, kick us off. Who do you have as your winner of the weekend?
Got to go with the Open champion, Brian Harman. Pretty impressive stuff to step in there when you're first major at 36 years old and do it in pretty dominating fashion. That's big time.
Short king.
Yeah.
Short king. And now in multiple ways, not a tall guy.
No.
Right? Not a tall guy. Not a long hitter off the tee either.
No.
And that's what I was under the impression you got to be really long off the tee to win these days. That dude's putting was insane.
If you make everything you look at, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter how long you hit it off the tee. That was the putting display was, I mean, it was unbelievable, dude. Everything inside 10 feet. What did he miss? 1 or 2 putts the entire week inside 10 feet? It was nuts.
Yeah, it's incredible. And he did it in poor weather with a partisan crowd not behind him, which was pretty funny. But I just to be able to go out there, stare it down, your first major. What's that? The first or the oldest to win a first major since Sergio did it a couple years ago. 36 years old. Like your best is supposed to be pretty far behind you at 36. So to be able to go out there with that field, which was really good. It was awesome to see Jason Day, coming in there and putting up a nice number as well. It's been a while for him, but yeah, that's awesome for that dude. That's to kind of come out of nowhere. What I say, 125-1 to go in there and win.
Yeah. Couple things. Did you see he did a press conference after, and he said on Saturday, one of the reasons, one of the ways he bogeyed and he kind of like snapped back into things because some guy was like, "Hey, Harman, you don't have the stones to go win." And he was like, when that guy said that, it just kind of brought me back, which I thought was pretty interesting. And he gave the guy credit. He was like, "Yeah, I needed that. It was great."
I can imagine whenever you're out there playing there, 'cause since you're not necessarily up against anyone, I can see that maybe you just, at one point, you're just kind of moving along, obviously doing your best, but just moving along until like something like that can get you back in a competitive fire, where you actually feel like you're out there competing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that story.
What did you think of the waggle counter?
I didn't see that.
How did you miss it?
I don't know.
Really, NBC, and from what I understand, oh yeah, you have DirecTV, so you missed it.
Yeah.
Boy, there are some people in Oklahoma that are not happy with KFOR. My good, and DirecTV. Woo, boy.
Yeah, I don't know what's behind all that, but I had to do it streaming on Peacock, which it just, the experience sucks on streaming. It still sucks. And some are better than others. Peacock is garbage, at least in my experience, but maybe that's a me problem. But yeah, so I didn't get to see is a lot. Like, it wasn't just sitting there running in the background all weekend on all the TVs. So I had to like pick my moments to sit down and watch.
The waggle counter for Harman was one of the funnier things I've ever seen on the golf broadcast. And I actually think that because it was, I mean, the dude just, he looks and waggles like 10 times before he hits the ball. I think I saw one where the counter got up to 13.
Wow.
And it was obviously something a lot of people were talking about on social media. So I think the people at NBC said, "Hey, you know what?
Get in on this.
Let's lean in." Right? We all know this is a bit annoying. It's a bit ridiculous, but let's count it. Let's do it up. And I thought it worked. It was, I don't know. It was kind of funny because they'd show the waggle counter and then he didn't hit an awesome shot. And everyone was like, well,
What are you
what are
going
you
to
going to do? I mean, the guy's going to waggle as many times as he need to if he keeps hitting the ball dead straight.
There's a direct correlation between waggles and results. I like that. Something
Yeah.
we can maybe implement.
And Azinger was trying to make it sound like Harman was a crazy person. He's like, he can't get control of his mind. It's just like, listen, man, just can we cheer for the guy? It's okay if he goes and wins.
There can be it's okay to be able to go through some mental battles on the way out there. There's nothing wrong with that. I'd say that he accomplished it. Like he got the better over the mental battle. He got the better of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, there wasn't a ton of drama, not a ton of excitement on Sunday, which is what we want, but that doesn't mean that we're not happy for Brian Harman. It's just we want to be entertained. I mean, now if Harman was our buddy or something, yeah, we'd be thrilled, but we just want to watch it come down to the last couple holes, which it did not.
Does it make it more difficult? I think it kind of does for me. When the weather is dreary and rainy and awful, and there's someone that's got a pretty firm 5 or 6 stroke lead coming down the back, I think that makes it even more difficult when the weather's crap, right?
Yeah. Yeah, unless the guy just can't handle the weather, which
Right.
he had no issues.
And some of those shots those guys were hitting out of that crap, the tall grass that was just soaked with water, where you'd see like a big cloud of mist on contact and still hit these great shots is just incredible, man.
Yeah. But my favorite parts about the rain golf, turning the hat backwards when they putt.
So you should get the drips. Yeah.
That's by far the best visual. And then Jason Day, he just said, I'm ditching the hat. He went no hat, which is so weird to see a professional golfer go hatless. And he was in contention, right? So they were showing him a lot. I was just like, I can't get used to this.
They all have the forehead tan line, from wearing the hat nonstop. Pretty funny.
Just insane. All right, who do you have as your loser of the weekend?
I had to go with. Now I know the sale is final and all of the details are out there, but I had to go with Washington football fans because you've been the Redskins, you've been the Washington football team, you've been the Commanders, and now I guess the new group is considering another name change. I mean, what are you going to do with all of your gear? You swapping gear like every 2 or 3 years now?
You're making purchases. You're saving up and buying new jerseys. But yeah, I saw that. And I think Washington fans will gladly buy the new gear because Dan Snyder is gone. They are no longer controlled by arguably the worst owner in sports. So
looks like a good group too.
Yeah.
I think good things are going to happen there. At least feels like it. They paid a huge sum for it, but we'll see. I don't know that there's ever been a fan base who hates their owner as much as Washington fans. It's been ongoing for some time.
It really is remarkable that they've hated him for as long as they have.
I know.
But they really have had no reasons to love him.
Nope. It's been a disaster, and we'll see. I don't know. They've got a couple of good young assets and some good stuff to build behind, and maybe the new, everyone coming together now that the person that they all hated, there's going to be a better positive energy around the place, right?
Yeah. Maybe spirits will be up. Any name change you'd prefer if they do end up changing it, which kind of sounds, who was it? Magic Johnson that said that was going to be on the table, I believe.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought Washington football team was the best, but I don't know what they're going to do. They may do a total change and change colors and change everything about it.
You can't change the colors, can you?
I don't know. If you can change the name, you can change the colors.
That would be a big shift. Like going away from the color scheme.
I know.
Yeah, no.
Like if you really want to start the whole thing over, which I don't know if that's something that they're interested in or not, but a total, from the top down rebranding.
Man, I hadn't even really thought of that. That'd be something.
Yeah.
Then
Be like an expansion team.
yeah, but then I gotta imagine a lot of people that didn't buy the new gear would just show up in their old gear, and then it would look ridiculous in the stands.
Yeah, that's true.
But
That's
hey,
true.
if you're gonna go all in on the rebrand, yeah, I didn't even think about changing the color scheme. That would be. I don't think they'll do
It's
that.
a
They
good
won't do
color
that.
scheme though.
Yeah,
like
it's
the
a good color scheme.
Yeah. Like that dark maroon and gold. Yeah, it looks good.
It looks good. But hey, you never know.
Nope.
You never know when the new owner syndrome. Listen, they own the
We
team.
got
They'll
to
do
do
what
it
they want.
different. We got to do it different.
We're
want
just
to
going
really,
completely away from it.
there's got to be a line in the sand of whenever past ownership, new ownership.
Yeah. That'd be that'd be one way of doing it. All right, let's get to my winner and loser. But first,
John Vance Auto Group has been serving Oklahomans for 40 years. They're family owned and operated, and they've got 9 full service dealerships in Woodward, Miami, and Guthrie. No matter what your vehicle needs are, John Vance Auto Group has you covered. They carry domestic brands such as Ford, Lincoln, Chevy, Buick, GMC, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, and Wagoneer. John Vance Auto Group's goal is to give unequaled service and to exceed customers' expectations in every way, which is why they have their lifetime loyalty program. And here's how it works. Buy a new or used car from them, then all you have to do is get all of the manufacturer recommended maintenance done at the Vance dealership. And if something goes wrong with the components of your engine, transmission, drive, axle, or transfer unit, they will cover the repair costs. It's a great deal. You can browse their entire inventory or find the John Vance dealership near you at vanceautogroup.com.
And First Fidelity Bank is a full-service financial institution based in Oklahoma with tailored solutions for all your personal and business needs. Checking accounts, saving accounts, home loans, and much more. They do it all. Whether it's online banking from your computer or mobile banking from your phone, everything is stress-free with FFB. Making mobile deposits, paying bills online, and moving money to different accounts could not be easier. Make your life easier and go bank with First Fidelity Bank. Visit ffb.com for more information. All right, for my winner of the weekend, thought about going with the Oklahoma City Thunder. First, you sign Mark Daigneault to a contract extension, and then Oklahoma City Mayor David Holt comes out. Some exciting news about building the new arena. Ted, that is kind of your arena, if you will. Not going to have to raise taxes above their current levels, and Thunder ownership going to pay for some of it. So I feel like if there were still some people on the fence when it comes to voting yes, that would give them the nudge that maybe they needed. That was exciting news.
Yeah, it is. I don't know a whole lot about the plans, but you've heard this. This has kind of been a slowly growing and building ordeal that's gone on. And I don't know. I think that if you were to do something like that and do something new and like at the same time as your team's like really starting to ramp up, I think the timing could be really good if they were able to get moving on it and pull it off. That would be awesome.
Yeah, the timing feels like it's going to end up being very, very good for, a new NBA arena, right? When you think back to the Ford Center and what became Chesapeake, what is now Paycom, that was not an NBA specific arena.
Right.
And now you've got all this young talent in the organization. And if you can time that with building a new arena, it could work out perfectly. It could be the exact opposite of what is about to happen in Los Angeles with the Clippers. It feels like where.
Yeah. Where do you think that maybe they would, I don't know that they would look at it, but have you been to any like fairly new NBA specific arenas, and like how are they different? And you know what I'm saying? Like what does that kind of look like? Golden State's one, but
yeah, from my understanding, it's all just about like square footage, like and being able to maximize the things you can put in the arena, not only for NBA games but for concerts and like the revenue you generate off of all of that stuff. It's about maximizing the options to bring in different forms, different revenue streams.
Some like concert
arena.
tours are like you're eliminated from some of those just right out of the gate, right?
Yeah. And the focus on this, obviously the Thunder, but I mean, just from reading some responses from people, like the concerts that would now become possible, like for Oklahoma City, if they have a state of art arena like that, I mean, it'd just be great for the city.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't watched David Holt's State of the City address, he paints a very clear picture of how important it has been throughout Oklahoma City's history, right? Like how important of an economic driver having a good arena has been.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think the citizens of Oklahoma City, like that vote is going to come, and I think they're going to step up and pass. I think it's undoubtedly gonna move forward. So I'm excited, man. It should be fun.
Yep, that'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. I also thought about going with movie theaters. Now, it's been a long time since I can remember around the hype that is around movie theaters right now with Barbie and Oppenheimer. I mean, now I've got a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. I'm not going to the movies anytime soon, but people seem really excited about those movies. So good for movie theaters. That's good.
Yeah. I can't remember. Well, it's been a long time since I've been to a movie theater.
I used to love going to the movies too.
My wife and I used to go at least once a week, at least. And gosh, we haven't been in a long time. Got to get back.
Maybe. Yeah,
let's
get back. Let's get back. But my winner of the weekend, I'm going with soccer in America. So first of all, you had the U.S. women's national team. They took care of business. Now they didn't destroy Vietnam quite as badly as we thought they would. But hey, a 3-0 win in the World Cup opener is a 3-0 win, right? So fired up for that. And also big time matchup on Wednesday against Netherlands. Remember, that's who they beat in the World Cup final back in 2019. So Netherlands going to want some revenge, and the U.S. women's national team is going to want to send a statement. So I'm looking forward to that one. And then, dude, how cool was that Messi goal? I mean, just insane. That was so cool.
Just beautiful. Bend it around the wall, upper corner. Plus time. You could not draw up a debut any better than that, right?
Oh my gosh. The MLS, Inter Miami, Apple, they were all going, oh my gosh, this couldn't have gone any better for us. That crowd was going insane, even though the clip I saw, Kim Kardashian wasn't even watching it, which of course she wasn't. Serena Williams was paying attention, so that's all that matters. But I do not watch a lot of MLS, right? But I was watching that one, and just an insane moment for that league, right? I don't even know if you can measure how important that is for him moving forward. That was incredible, the way that thing unfolded.
Well, it hasn't been that long, but I'm guessing that's already the most watched MLS clip of all time, right?
Oh,
has to be.
There's no doubt about it.
And if that doesn't kind of announce the new stage that they want to be on, I don't know what else would. Like, I guarantee everyone that was behind like that deal and getting him here, they had to just like, can you imagine how thrilled they are to, like, they had to just turn and look at each other. It's like, this is it. This is why we did it. And for that to happen, like right out of the gate, is just amazing. Storybook.
Yeah. And I'm looking at it on the MLS's Twitter right now. 53.3 million views.
Ooh, yeah.
On that tweet of Messi's goal.
Wait till Messi retweets it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait till he puts it on his Instagram.
Yeah,
where like half the world follows him or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, no, but American soccer, just a great weekend.
Yep, very
great
good.
Weekend. All right, for my loser of the weekend, I thought about going with Florida A&M football players. Did you see this whole thing?
I did.
Their head coach, Willie Simmons, has suspended all team activities because some of his players allowed the rapper Real Boston Richie not going to lie, not familiar with his work, to record a music video in their locker room without the proper permission. And I'm sure Coach Simmons was not happy about his players letting him into the locker room, but it seems like he was even less pleased with the lyrics of the song, which I won't lie, I've watched the video a couple times. Catchy beat. There's no doubt about it. Catchy beat. I get it. But yeah, the lyrics they're not safe for work. And I could see Coach Simmons not wanting this guy to be wearing all Florida A&M football gear inside the locker room while he's saying some of this stuff. It was, I mean, I've never heard of anything like this. What an interesting and kind of hilarious story.
Interesting, hilarious, and I'll give it up to give it up to the real Boston Richie. I don't know if anyone ever would have seen his music video anywhere. I don't know how big he is, but now everyone's going to see it, right? Everyone
I watched
knows
it twice.
who the real Boston Richie is at this point. So on his end, what does he care about Florida A&M football operations? Doesn't care at all. He's got himself a viral video.
Yeah, well, he performed at their spring game. So clearly there's a relationship there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a relationship there. But yeah, I don't think this suspension of team activities is going to last that long, or I assume it's not going to, but just kind of a funny story, you know? Hey,
Right.
they let a guy film a rap video in the facility, didn't tell their coach, and the coach is kind of pissed, yeah.
Oh, here's the thing. It's like he performed at the spring game. I thought we had a good relationship with the guy. You know, I thought we were okay with him. That's why we let him in. No big deal.
I have to imagine Willie Simmons went, guys, don't you think you should have just asked?
Yeah. They were probably thinking, hey, extra week off or so before training camp gets going. No big deal.
Oh, they're playing chess, not checkers. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
if we let him in here, then coach will suspend this stuff. We'll get a little break before we start camp. I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
Conspiracy Ted is back.
That's right. But you know what that means? That running test is going to be done in pads after the first practice instead of before you say goodbye for the summer workouts.
Oh boy. Thoughts and prayers to all our guys at Florida A&M. My goodness. All right, but my loser of the weekend, and I think they're just fine, but the Kansas City Chiefs, right? They still got Mahomes, right? So they're all good. But
Which, by the way, you watching that quarterback thing?
it's fantastic.
Really good. Yeah.
It's my wife and I love it. And now Mariota's rookie year was my last year in Tennessee. Right. So we know him and his wife. So it's fun. Like there's that piece of it that's fun for us. But also you got the best quarterback in the league in it. And then how likable is Kirk Cousins? Oh my God.
I know. It is.
I don't know how you can watch that and not root for that guy.
I know he's like, I can't even really explain it, but yes, that you're exactly right. You kind of have to root for him after that. Just like an honest, good all around dude.
And when he's going through it with the ribs and every time he's getting up, he's just like, ugh. But on the Mahomes side of things, one of the parts I really like is like it shows the competitor that dude is.
Yeah.
And like that competitive drive, that edge. It's one of the things it's one of the reasons he's so great. And I love they did a really good job of showing that piece of him without making him look, like an a-hole or anything like that. I thought that they did a good job with that balance. But yeah, that dude likes winning and he'll talk a little bit. I like it. But their best defensive player did not show up to training camp, right? Chris Jones, he wants a new deal. So he isn't there right now. Reports say they are, quote, far apart. And now he's not a guy that needs to be at training camp, right? This is a veteran guy that's played a ton of football, but dude is a game record. Had 15 and a half sacks last year. That was the most for any defensive tackle. He was first team All-Pro. The guy completely changes how you have to game plan as an offensive line. I know that from experience. Like, he is, when you get into the building and you start putting that game plan together, you go, hey, where's 95?
Yep.
So this is, them being far apart, it is what it is, but this is not a guy that you want to play that much of hardball with, right? Like, this is a guy you just got to pay. Right?
I would think so. I mean, that's the way I would approach it, unless there's something else on their roster that they feel really, really, really good about. Then typically, whenever you've got a defensive lineman like him, you keep him around, right? I'd be shocked if they don't figure out a way to get closer on a deal at least. And he's one of those guys. He's not at training camp. I'm not worried about it.
Right.
He big defensive tackle. He's going to figure out his duties pretty quickly as to what he needs to do. But you do want him sharp coming into the season. But I gotta imagine this is one that they end up finding a way to make a deal. But I really don't know their situation salary cap wise. That's one of the problems whenever you have a quarterback like Mahomes. The price tag is so big that it can really change your maneuverability on other guys on the roster. So, it makes it difficult, but I imagine they're going to find a way. They have to, right? Just, you can't let a stud defensive lineman go.
Yeah. And, some people are wondering, hey, are they going to trade him and get like a haul like they got for Tyreek Hill? And they're kind of comparing that situation. To me, it's not the same at all, right? You've got Mahomes on offense.
He's a skill position maker.
Yes. He can make that wide receiver core good, right? Because he's that special. And they've got a great offensive line, right? Mahomes can't solve the problems in the interior of the defensive line if Chris Jones isn't there. Like, not even a guy as good as Patrick Mahomes can fix that.
Right.
He's not going to all of a sudden run out there on the field and start rushing the passer. So I looked it up. I think Jones is the 8th or 9th highest paid defensive tackle. And now Aaron Donald is number 1 at $31 million per year. He's not going to get that. But you look at Quinnen Williams' new deal, he's at $24 million per year. My guess is Jones wants something in between those two deals, right? 25 to 27 a year. And I think he's making 20 right now. So we'll see where it ends up landing. I can't imagine they don't get a deal done before week 1. But yeah, this is, you cannot not have him out there on the field. He's just too good, man. He's too good.
Yeah. Do you know what the salary cap is?
The total number? Got no clue.
I mean, you're talking about
$224.8 million.
224. And I think you're probably right. I mean, they're going to be bumping up around $80 million, a third of that with just 2 players. That's what makes it so difficult whenever you've got the quarterback making over 50 and you got to start making way more difficult decisions on down the roster. And this is going to be one of them. They're going to find a way to get it done, I would imagine, but there's going to be casualties because of that in the future. There's just the way it goes.
And the funny part is Mahomes is underpaid.
Yeah. Because as soon as he signed to that huge deal, everything else caught up with it instantly.
Yeah. He's underpaid.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
probably
absolutely
signed
no doubt.
a bad deal, actually.
Yeah. But I think he likes winning so much, and he's making so much off the field, right? And endorsements. Like, he's on everything right now. So
he's able to make ends meet with 50+ million.
Yeah. And I bet he's making like another 15 or 20. I actually,
And he could
I
make
got no
more
idea.
than that. He could make as much as busy as he wants to be with it. You know,
That's true. I mean, he's fine,
right?
but it does become an interesting situation for the Chiefs and managing the cap. But I know this: you want Chris Jones to be happy, and you want him out there playing for your football team when the season rolls around. That's all I know.
Yep.
Andy Reid can say, "Hey," the quote was kind of savage, by the way. I saw in the ESPN article about it. He said, "If you're not here, we just keep moving. That's how we roll." I said, "God dang!" But he's not a normal player, man. I mean, he's just not. So
Yeah.
I know he's getting up there, but the guy was arguably the best interior defensive lineman in the entire league last year.
Yep. And he was great down the stretch too. Really good.
Yeah. So I'm sure it'll all get worked out, but not ideal when your best defensive player doesn't show up to camp. Not what you're looking for.
No. Tough.
On that note, episode 338 in the books. We'll have a new podcast that'll drop on Wednesday. A reminder, Andy Staples going to join us. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, right? Going to have a long convo with our man Staples. Just a reminder, you can hear Teddy from 3 to 6 on 94.7 The Ref. You can hear me on SiriusXM Big 12 Radio, channel 375. Hope you all have a fantastic week. And until next time, we appreciate y'all for listening. Do what you always do, Oklahoma. Take care of each other.